I paid $85,000 for my daughter's college education. When I needed $500, she took my house. I'm sitting on a bench outside a nursing home I never chose, holding a plastic bag with 3 dresses and a photograph. The wind hissed like a whisper through the bare trees. My hands won't stop shaking. Not from the cold. From the signature I put on paper 2 weeks ago. The one my daughter said would make things easier. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? I raised her. I gave her everything. If you're new here, please subscribe. This channel is just starting, and every day we'll share stories like this. Stories that need to be told. Now let me tell you mine. My name is Grace. I'm 78 years old, and until 3 months ago, I lived in the same house for 42 years. It wasn't much. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen where the tiles cracked like spider webs, a porch where the paint peeled every summer. But it was mine. My husband bought it before he died, back when Lauren was 6, and still called me Mama instead of Grace. I worked 3 jobs to put Lauren through medical school. 3. I cleaned offices at dawn, when the city was still dark and the only sound was my mop bucket rolling across empty floors. I served lunch at a diner until 3, smiling through tired feet and customers who never tipped. Then I stocked shelves at a pharmacy until midnight, my back screaming with every box I lifted. 15 years of that. My knees gave out. My back bent like a question mark. I ate rice and beans 6 days a week so she could have books, supplies, a laptop, everything she needed. I remember one night, Lauren came home from her 2nd year, crying because she didn't think she could do it anymore. The coursework was too hard. The pressure was too much. "Mama, maybe I should just quit," she said. I held her face in my hands. "You're going to be a doctor. You're going to save lives. Don't you dare quit." She didn't quit. She graduated top of her class. When she became a cardiologist, I cried so hard I couldn't see her face in the photos. "You did it, Mama," she said that day, hugging me. "We did it." I thought she meant we'd always be together in this. I didn't know we had an expiration date. The problems started small. My heart began skipping beats, fluttering like a trapped bird. At first I ignored it. Then came the dizziness, the shortness of breath, the nights when I'd wake up gasping. The doctor said I needed medication. Expensive medication. $200 a month. I called Lauren. "Mom, that's a lot," she said. Her voice sounded distant, like she was reading a grocery list. "Can't you get something generic?" "The doctor says I need this one. It's for my heart." "Well, I can't keep paying for everything. You have the house. Maybe it's time to think about selling." Selling. The word landed in my chest like a stone. "Lauren, I've lived here for 40 years. Exactly. It's too big for you now. You're alone. What if you fall? What if something happens and no one finds you for days?" She wasn't wrong. I was alone. My husband had been gone 12 years. My sister had moved to Arizona. But the house held every memory I had left. My husband's voice in the hallway. Lauren's height marks on the doorframe. The garden where I planted roses every spring. The spot on the living room carpet where we danced when she got her acceptance letter. "I'll think about it," I said. But she didn't wait for me to think. 2 weeks later, she showed up with papers. I was in bed, recovering from a dizzy spell that left me on the bathroom floor for an hour. My neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, found me and called Lauren. Lauren walked in with a man in a suit. "A notary," she said. Her smile was thin and tight. She'd brought flowers, too. Daisies. I used to love daisies. "Mom, we need to make this official. I'm going to take care of everything from now on. You just need to sign here." The paper swam in front of my eyes. My head throbbed. The room smelled like antiseptic. She'd cleaned before coming. Or maybe that was just the smell of hospital she carried with her now. "What is it?" "Power of attorney. So I can handle your finances, your medical decisions. It's for your own good. You scared me, Mom. What if Mrs. Jenkins hadn't found you?" Her husband, Daniel, stood in the doorway, looking at the floor. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "I don't know, Lauren. I feel like I should read it first." "Mom," her voice hardened. "Do you trust me or not?" I looked at her. My daughter. The girl I'd sacrificed everything for. The girl I'd held through nightmares and breakups and every crisis she'd ever faced. Of course I trusted her. I signed. "There," she said, taking the paper quickly. "Now you don't have to worry about anything." But the relief I expected never came. Instead, I felt something cold settle in my stomach. 3 days later, a doctor I'd never met came to the house. Dr. Morrison. He was young, maybe 35, with a clipboard and a distracted air. He asked me questions. What year was it? Who was the president? Could I count backward from 100? I answered everything correctly, but he wrote something down and shook his head. Mrs. Williams, your daughter is concerned about your cognitive state. I'm recommending a full evaluation. There's nothing wrong with my mind. He smiled the way people smile at children. We'll see. Who are you? I asked. I've never seen you before. You're not my regular doctor. I'm a colleague of your daughter's. She asked me to do a home visit as a favor. Something about that felt wrong, but I was too tired to argue. The evaluation never happened. Instead, Lauren came back with 2 men in uniforms. Not police, but something official. They said I was being moved to a care facility for my safety. You can't do this, I said. My voice cracked. This is my house. It's not your house anymore, Mom. Lauren's face was stone. I sold it. The buyers take possession next week. The room tilted. You sold my house? I had power of attorney, and the doctor confirmed you're not capable of living alone. This is what's best. Best for who? I screamed. I never screamed, but something broke open inside me. Lauren turned away. Pack a bag. They're waiting. Daniel finally spoke. Lauren, maybe we should stay out of this, she snapped. I looked at him then, really looked, and I saw something I'd missed before. Shame. He was ashamed, but he said nothing more. Mrs. Jenkins appeared in the doorway. Grace, what's happening? Stay back, please, one of the uniformed men said. This is a family matter. Grace is family, Mrs. Jenkins said, her voice shaking. I've known her 20 years. I'm being taken away, I said, my voice breaking. She sold my house. Mrs. Jenkins's face went pale. Lauren, you can't. But they were already guiding me out the door. I looked back once. My house. My life. The roses I'd planted were blooming red by the porch. The nursing home smelled like disinfectant and boiled vegetables. My room was 10 feet by 10 feet. A bed, a chair, a window that looked out at a parking lot. At night, I could hear someone crying through the walls. Sometimes I realized it was me. I lay there for 2 weeks, staring at the ceiling, wondering how my life had become so small. I thought about my husband, about how he'd worked himself to death to give us that house. I thought about every double shift, every missed holiday, every time I chose Lauren's future over my own present. And I thought about how easily she'd erased it all. The staff was kind but hurried. Breakfast at 7, lunch at noon, dinner at 5, pills at 8 and 4, bingo on Tuesdays, a movie on Fridays. My life reduced to a schedule printed on laminated paper taped to the wall. I tried calling Lauren. The staff said she'd left instructions not to disturb her at work unless it was an emergency. This is an emergency, I said. She defines what counts as an emergency, Mrs. Williams. I tried calling Mrs. Jenkins, but I didn't remember her number. I tried calling Linda, my cousin, but when I asked for her contact information, the staff said there was no one by that name on my approved call list. Lauren must have forgotten to add her, I said. We can only call people on the list. I was trapped, not by bars, but by rules and paperwork and my daughter's signature. Then I met Mr. Edward Thompson. He was in the common room, a man in his 80s with sharp eyes and a newspaper folded under his arm. He watched me sit down at a table in the corner, alone, and he walked over. You're new, he said. I nodded. And you look like someone who doesn't belong here. I almost laughed. Does anyone belong here? Touché. He sat down. Edward Thompson, retired attorney. And you are? Grace. Retired nothing. Just retired from my own life. He studied me for a long moment. Tell me what happened. I don't know why I told him. Maybe because he listened without pity, without that head tilt people do when they think you're fragile. I told him everything. The jobs, the sacrifice, the signature, the house. My voice kept breaking, but I kept going. When I finished, he was quiet. Then he said, "That's called financial elder abuse. And if your daughter used a false medical certificate, it's fraud. But I signed the papers, under duress, while you were vulnerable. That signature might not hold up in court. I don't have money for a lawyer. She took everything." He smiled. "Lucky for you. I have time and a very long memory. And I hate bullies, especially bullies who prey on their own parents. Let's start gathering evidence. Why would you help me? He looked away, toward the window. Because 30 years ago, someone did this to my sister, and no one helped her. She died in a place like this, alone, believing she deserved it. I won't let that happen to someone else if I can stop it. Edward introduced me to Amy, a night nurse who'd been working at the home for 5 years. She had a soft voice and tired eyes, but when Edward explained what we were doing, she nodded immediately. I've seen this before, she said. Too many times. What do you need? Records, Edward said. Visitor logs. Anytime Lauren came here, what she said, how she acted, and if Grace was ever actually evaluated by a psychiatrist. Amy disappeared for 2 days. When she came back, she handed us a folder. No psychiatric evaluation. Just one visit from a general practitioner who spent 10 minutes here. And look at the visitor log. Lauren came once in 6 weeks. Once. Edward's jaw tightened. That's neglect. Keep going. We needed more. Edward coached me through phone calls to old neighbors, people who'd known me for decades. Mrs. Jenkins cried when I called. I knew something was wrong, she said. Your daughter came by with a moving truck, cleared out the house in 1 day. She didn't even let me say goodbye to you. I knocked on the door, and she told me you'd already left, that you didn't want to see anyone. But I know you, Grace. That's not you. Would you testify to that? Edward asked, listening on speaker. Absolutely. And I'm not the only one. Half the block is furious about what happened. We all remember you working those jobs, coming home exhausted but always with a smile. We remember Lauren graduating and you being so proud. And then suddenly you're just gone. One by one, the pieces came together. My cousin Linda, who Lauren had blocked from calling me. The man at the pharmacy who remembered me paying for my own medications for years. Always on time. Always coherent. The woman at the diner where I'd worked, who said I'd been sharp as a tack just months before, remembering orders, making change, chatting with regulars. She was fine, the diner manager said. Better than fine. She was one of the best workers I ever had. And then, the biggest piece. Amy managed to get a recording. Lauren had visited, finally, after 8 weeks. Amy had placed her phone on a cart outside my room, recording. Mom, stop crying. This is better for everyone. I want to go home. You don't have a home. I sold it. I used the money for a down payment on a condo in Miami. You're old. You don't have a future. This is the best place for you. Lauren, please. I can take care of myself. I just had one dizzy spell. It wasn't just one dizzy spell. You're falling apart, and I can't put my life on hold to take care of you. I never asked you to put your life on hold. I just asked for help with the medication. Well, the medication is expensive, and I have my own family to think about. I didn't work this hard to be dragged down by you. You've done your part. Now let me live my life. I gave you everything, and I'm grateful, but gratitude doesn't mean I have to sacrifice my future for your past. You're taken care of here. That's enough. When Amy played the recording for us, I felt something break and rebuild inside me at the same time. That wasn't my daughter. Or maybe it was, and I'd never let myself see it. We have enough, Edward said. Now we need a lawyer who'll take this pro bono. He made one call. Robert Hayes agreed to meet us the next day. Robert Hayes was younger than I expected, maybe 50, with glasses and a wedding ring he twisted when he was thinking. He came to the nursing home with a briefcase and a calm demeanor that made me feel, for the first time in months, like someone was actually listening. He listened to everything, reviewed the documents, and listened to the recording twice. This is one of the clearest cases of elder abuse I've seen, he said. We'll file a lawsuit for financial exploitation, fraud, and unlawful guardianship. We'll demand the return of the house or its equivalent value, plus damages. We'll also report the doctor who did the evaluation to the medical board. Will it work? I asked. Grace, I can't promise anything, but you have a strong case. And more than that, you have people who believe you. He paused, looking at me directly. I have to ask, are you prepared for what this means? Your daughter will fight back. This will become public. It'll get ugly. You'll have to face her in court and possibly say things that can never be unsaid. I thought about that plastic bag with 3 dresses. I thought about the photograph I carried. Lauren at 6, grinning with missing front teeth, holding my hand at the zoo. I thought about the day she was born, how I'd promised to protect her from everything, but she hadn't protected me from anything. I'm already living in ugly, I said. At least this way. I'm fighting back. The lawsuit was filed 3 weeks later. Lauren showed up at the nursing home the next day, her face red, her hands shaking. "What the hell are you doing?" she shouted. "You're suing me? You stole my house. I saved you from yourself. You were falling apart. I had one dizzy spell. One. And you used it to take everything. You signed the papers. Because you told me to trust you. Because I was your mother. And I thought you loved me." She stared at me, breathing hard. For a second, I thought I saw something. Guilt, maybe. Regret. But then it was gone, replaced by anger. "You'll lose," she said. "And you'll have nothing." "I already have nothing," I said quietly. "You made sure of that." She left without another word. But that night she called. Her voice was different, smaller, almost pleading. "Mom, please, drop the lawsuit. I'll find you a better place. I'll visit more. I'll pay for your medications. Just don't do this to me. You had 8 weeks to visit more, Lauren. You came once. I was busy. You know how demanding my work is. I had patients who needed me. I needed you. I'm your mother. I gave you everything, and when I needed you, you threw me away. That's not fair. No, it's not. None of this is fair. I was stressed. I made mistakes, but I never meant to hurt you. You sold my house. You locked me in here. You cut me off from everyone who cared about me. What did you think would happen?" Silence. "I loved you enough to give up everything," I said. "You didn't love me enough to give up anything." She hung up. The trial took 4 months. I sat in a courtroom that smelled like old wood and fear, listening to lawyers argue over my life like it was a piece of property. Robert presented the evidence. The lack of a real psychiatric evaluation. The recording. The testimonies from neighbors. Mrs. Jenkins cried on the stand, describing how she'd watched me work myself to exhaustion for Lauren's future. Linda testified about how Lauren had blocked her from contacting me, even though we'd been close our whole lives. "I tried to call," Linda said, her voice shaking. "I tried to visit, but Lauren said Grace didn't want to see me, that it would be too confusing for her. I believed her because she's a doctor. I thought she knew what was best." Then Daniel took the stand. Lauren's husband looked smaller than I remembered. His voice was barely a whisper. "Did your wife discuss her plans for her mother's house?" Robert asked. "Yes." "What did she say?" Daniel hesitated. She said her mom had given her enough already, that the house was an asset going to waste. She wanted to sell it and use the money for our future. Did she express concern for her mother's well-being? Not really. She said it was time to move on, that her mother had lived her life and now it was our turn. "And did you object?" Daniel's eyes filled. I should have said something, but I didn't, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life. I thought maybe Lauren knew something I didn't. She's a doctor. She takes care of people. But she wasn't taking care of her mother. She was just taking. Lauren's face went white. Lauren's attorney tried to paint me as confused, as someone who'd needed help and didn't know it. But then Robert called the pharmacist, the diner manager, Mrs. Jenkins again. Each one described a woman who was fully competent, who paid her bills, who remembered birthdays, who lived independently without issue. "Your Honor," Robert said, "this isn't a case of a daughter trying to help a declining parent. This is a case of financial opportunism disguised as care. Dr. Williams saw an opportunity when her mother had a single medical episode, and she exploited it for her own gain. And then, the moment I'll never forget, Ethan and Chloe, my grandchildren, 15 and 13, asked to speak. The judge allowed it. Chloe spoke first, her voice small but clear. "My mom told us Grandma was sick and couldn't take care of herself. But when we saw her last Christmas, she was fine. She made cookies with us. She remembered all our favorite stories. She helped me with my homework. She wasn't sick." Ethan nodded. "Mom didn't want us to visit her after she moved. She said it would be too sad, that Grandma wouldn't remember us. But I think she didn't want us to know the truth, because Grandma would have told us." Lauren stood up, shaking. They don't understand." "Sit down, Dr. Williams," the judge said, his voice sharp. The judge took 2 weeks to deliberate. When we returned for the verdict, the courtroom was packed. Somehow word had spread. There were people there I'd never met, older people who'd read about the case, who'd experienced their own versions of this story. The judge's voice was steady and firm. I find that Dr. Lauren Williams did knowingly and intentionally exploit her mother's temporary vulnerability to gain control of assets that were not rightfully hers. The power of attorney was signed under duress when Mrs. Williams was recovering from a medical episode and not in a position to fully understand what she was signing. The medical evaluation provided was insufficient and appears to have been conducted as a favor rather than a legitimate assessment. The sale of the house was therefore invalid, as Mrs. Williams was never truly incompetent to manage her own affairs. He paused, looking directly at Lauren. This court has seen many cases of elder abuse, but few as calculated as this one. Dr. Williams used her medical credentials and her mother's trust to systematically strip her of autonomy, assets, and dignity. This is unconscionable. He ordered Lauren to compensate me for the full value of the house, $280,000, plus $30,000 in damages, plus all legal fees. He referred the case to the state medical board and opened a criminal investigation for fraud and falsification of medical records. Lauren's career didn't survive it. The medical board suspended her license pending investigation. The hospital let her go quietly, not wanting the publicity. The condo in Miami, she had to sell it to pay the settlement. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow. 6 months later, I'm back in my house. The new buyers, a young couple with a baby, had already moved in, but Robert negotiated a settlement. Lauren had to buy them out and return the property to me. It took every cent she had, and more. She had to borrow from Daniel's family. The humiliation, I heard, was complete. The house feels different now, quieter. Some of my things were gone, sold or donated, I don't know. But Mrs. Jenkins helped me replace what I needed. She comes by every Sunday with soup, and we sit on the porch like we used to. Linda calls twice a week. I should have fought harder to reach you, she always says. You didn't know, I always reply. None of us knew. Ethan and Chloe visit when they can, when their father brings them. Daniel and Lauren separated 3 months after the trial. He brings the kids every other weekend. They hug me tight and ask if I'm okay. Really okay. I am now, I tell them, and I mean it. I've started a small garden again. Tomatoes, herbs, a few roses. My hands shake when I dig in the soil, but I dig anyway. Edward stops by sometimes. We drink tea on the porch and talk about everything except the trial. Amy came once on her day off, just to see the house she'd helped me save. You did this, I told her. No, she said. You did. I just handed you the tools. Lauren tried to apologize once, through a letter. She said she was sorry, that she'd been under pressure, that she didn't know what she was thinking. She said she'd been trying to build a life and had lost sight of what mattered. She said she'd made terrible mistakes and would spend the rest of her life trying to make up for them. I read it twice and then put it in a drawer. Maybe one day I'll forgive her. Maybe I won't. But I've learned something in these last months. Something I should have known all along. Love doesn't mean letting someone destroy you. Sacrifice doesn't mean erasing yourself. I gave my daughter everything I had, but I shouldn't have given her my dignity. Chloe asked me once, sitting at the kitchen table with milk and cookies, "Grandma, do you hate Mom?" I thought about that for a long time. "No," I said finally. "I don't hate her. I'm just sad for her. She had love, real love, and she traded it for money and convenience. That's a loss she'll carry forever, even if she doesn't realize it yet." Ethan nodded slowly. "We still love her. Is that okay?" "Of course it is. She's your mother. Love her. But don't let anyone teach you that love means letting them hurt you. Love should build you up, not tear you down. I'm 78 years old. I've got a weak heart and knees that crack when I stand. But I've also got my house, my name, and my story. And no one gets to take that from me again. Some mornings I wake up and forget what happened. I think Lauren's still the little girl who used to climb into my bed during thunderstorms, who used to make me cards on Mother's Day with crayons and construction paper. Then I remember, and I get up anyway, because that's what you do. You survive, you rebuild, you plant gardens in the ruins, and wait for something beautiful to grow. If this story touched you, I hope you'll share it. Not because it's my story, but because it's too many people's story. Too many parents who give everything and receive nothing but betrayal in return. Too many elders who are discarded like they're no longer valuable, like their years of love and sacrifice mean nothing. But here's the thing. We are valuable. Our stories matter. Our dignity is not negotiable. If you know someone who's going through something like this, send them this video. Let them know they're not alone. Let them know that there are people like Edward, like Amy, like Robert Hayes who will stand up when it matters. Let them know that the system isn't perfect, but sometimes, it works. And if you're here because you needed to hear that kindness still exists, even in the darkest moments, I hope you found it. I hope you saw it in Mr. Edward Thompson, who helped a stranger because someone hadn't helped his sister. I hope you saw it in Amy, who risked her job to do the right thing. I hope you saw it in Robert Hayes, who took my case knowing I couldn't pay him. I hope you saw it in neighbors like Mrs. Jenkins who refuse to look away when something's wrong. Subscribe if you'd like to hear more stories like this. Real stories. Hard stories. Stories that don't always end perfectly, but that end with hope. Because that's what we need more of in this world. Not fairy tales, but hope. The real, stubborn, hard-won kind. The kind that plants roses in November and believes they'll bloom in spring. The kind that says, I am still here, I still matter, and I will not be erased. Thank you for listening.